Okay, cool.
Hi, everybody. Annie, the English carnivore gal here. I've got a lovely guest with me today who's very inspiring. This is Lee. He's from the Kent Carnivore. And Lee has had some amazing interviews. So please follow him. He's been with Sean Baker, with Ken Berry. Anyone else, Lee, that you've had the pleasure of meeting online?
Like yourself, Dave Mack, also Bart
Wow.
K, numerous other people actually, some smaller channels that you might not be aware of. Yeah, all over the world, honestly. But yeah, it's been quite the experience.
Wow, Bart K. Oh my
Yes.
God. I'm so honored to be able to sit with you and have a chat. But really, Lee, what brought me onto following this amazing way of life in with the carnivore? I mean, I'm 60 days in today. So I'm really impressed by that. And how many days have you been going?
He's got to be getting on 600, something really close to that. It's yeah, it's well over 19 months now. But I guess I
Wow.
posted a video. It's like 580 days or something, so it's got to be close to 600 now. Yeah.
Well, I came on this literally on the 2nd of January because my other half would do what we call dry January. So he wasn't going to have a drink. And I said, okay, if we're doing this, we're doing elimination because he needs he needs an operation. So on his knees, basically, being an ex-rugby player. So basically, I thought we'll do it together. We did 30 days. I looked at him, he looked at me. We felt amazing. And it was just a change in so many ways, which you can highlight a little bit about your journey in a moment. But
Mm.
with Steve, he was stopped snoring in 2 weeks. His sleep
Mhm.
apnea went. And I, in the morning, I was thinking, is he still there? I can't hear him breathing.
Yeah.
So
Funny.
it's just so many amazing transformations right from the beginning that I think I'm just sort of blown away by how great this journey's been. And on the path, I'm not very good with tech, but on the path to what I'm doing, I'm just coming up and meeting so many great people like yourselves, Lee. So thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with
No
me.
worries. Absolutely.
So do you want to give the listeners or viewers, or I don't know what you call them, the
Yeah.
followers, a little insight into your journey?
Sure. So my problem started when I was 24. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So they did a sigmoid endoscopy, which is a camera and a little, tool that they take biopsies in the colon. And so that came back confirmed ulcerative colitis. I went my first couple of years medication free, and it wasn't until 2 years past, sort of 2014, and that's when I started taking medication. And I never recall the name. I should probably look into this, but they were kind of combinations of steroids and things that just lowered bowel frequency, movements, and things like that, enable me to cope a little bit better during flares. And so it did feel like I was getting treated somewhat in the beginning, but like all drugs, they address the symptoms and not the root cause. And so inevitably my condition was increasingly getting worse. And, from that point of taking medication, I also took their advice to consume more fiber, which is very typical medical advice from your doctors and that your general practitioners.
Mm.
So I sort of took that all on board, started taking the medication, and 3 years later, I wound up on my worst flare. I was having, 30 bowel movements a day for the last few days, leading, going into hospital. And they were quite shocked because the last time they saw me, they had a little look and it was low end, it was more mild, and now all of a sudden, even taking their advice for 3 years and eating all this what I thought was so-called healthy foods, my whole colon was riddled, and it was really, really quite pervasive, extreme. There was no going back really. They trialed me with a 50-50 shot drug, if you like. The 50% of the time I think patients go in remission, and it's an immune suppressant drug. So it was very strong, and it's one of those things. It's quite tricky. It's not something that anybody really should be taking. They put me on it, and they kept me on it for a couple of days longer than they suggested either as well. But it didn't work. So unfortunately, I just had to have my entire colon removed. That was in 2017. And as a consequence, I've been left with a stoma, which is the part of the colon that, wherever they perform the surgery, mine was an ileostomy. So I have my whole digestive tract all the way to the ileum, which then protrudes through my abdominal wall. And then I have a bag over that, and that's how I go to the toilet. And so that led to depression, which is kind of for
Oh,
many people, they probably
God.
can understand that. For a lot of people, they think, oh man, could you not get that thing reversed? And I got that from a lot of people. You know, I was sharing the news and they were like, even their reactions didn't really help. They were very sincere reactions.
No.
Oh, no, Lee, no, like get that reversed and stuff like
Mm.
this, which doesn't really make you feel very good about your
No, of
situation.
course not.
I was single at the time, which didn't help. And so everything seemed a bit gloomy, you know,
Mm.
and I'm just trying to cope, you know, going back to work, getting back to health. A lot of things
Mm.
went quite smoothly. I mean, in my opinion, it was a successful surgery. I know there's no such thing really as a good surgery, but it was a success. And I was able to get back to work. The problem was that it just kept manifesting mentally as an issue for me, just trying to
Mm.
accept the reality.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. I
and
mean,
not
you've got a, sorry, I was going to say you've got a lovely lady with you now,
yes,
and
that's correct.
you're on the upward road.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. And you've got your place together. So
exactly.
I did hear you might have to have another surgery. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, it's on
I
the
wasn't
13th
quite sure.
next month. Or this month now. It's the
Okay.
first, isn't it? So it's the 13th of
Yeah,
March. Yep,
yeah.
less than 2 weeks now. Just to
But
finalize
honestly,
what they did.
none of us can realize, everything because we've not been in your position. But mentally,
Mm.
psychologically, you're feeling in a better place about. I mean, this is a tough one to go into this
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
but you're feeling in a better place, are you? Being able to cope a bit better than you were originally?
Oh yeah, massively. Yeah, I mean, even with
Yeah.
this news, 'cause I didn't realize that this surgery that I've got to have done was so big. So basically, they've left a 5 centimeter stump because they don't typically just remove it all in one go. They keep
Okay.
it there so it's less sort of pervasive. They keep it there for options. A lot of people have this
Yes.
J pouch reverse and things like that. Well, my stump is so small. This technically is the healthiest I'm going to be. They don't advocate for the surgery. You know,
No.
I've looked at the percentages, and about 35% of the time in my situation, people will have to have the same surgery back to where I am again anyway. And so that's one, you know, gamble you're
Yeah.
taking. But there's another sort of 35% of the time that things just are really quite problematic. Retraining the muscle back there and not
Yeah.
having
Of
any
course.
complications. That there's a 35% bracket where, okay, we're not having to resort back to surgery, but you're going to have issues. I think that
Mm.
they said at best it's maybe 10% that it would be like, you know, you're happy, it was successful and there's no complications, but they still say, you know, this is the healthiest I'm going to be in. So I
Yeah.
tried to get this ball rolling to get this reverse surgery, sorry, the final surgery done, which is basically proctectomy. So I have to have that little 5 centimeter stump that connects to the anus, and that needs to be gone. They need to remove the whole lot. Unfortunately, where it's so small, they think it's a lot safer because it encroaches on vulnerable nerve tissue that pertains to the bladder and the kidney function. They
Yeah.
want to open me back up at the front, which means it's a big surgery now. So
Yeah.
stents and raise the kidney and bladders up, and so they can get to this silly little 5 centimeter stump. And that was a bit of a shock. But even, you know, even that, the next day I kind of slept on it, woke up, and I didn't feel too bad. And so it's amazing, you know. I think the carnivore diets enable me to cope a lot better with things and mentally, that my outlook and my
Yeah.
attitude. And I kind of, I don't know, I
Do
can
you
take.
find I was going to say, do you fast at all? I don't. I mean, we've never met before, so I'm
Yeah,
not really sure about how you manage with the carnivore going forward.
sure. I've fasted here and there
Yeah,
strategically for a good reason in some ways. Like I don't just believe that we should fast and starve ourselves for no reason whatsoever. I think really we should be eating most days, of course, you know.
yeah,
Once a day is probably best. Again, for multiple reasons, I don't think we would have been such good hunters that we could just be snacking all day long, and that we've
no,
got these
true.
constant meals coming in. That's one thing, but there's also the effects of protein constantly. You know, it's not going to elevate blood glucose like carbs for obvious
Yeah,
reasons. But again, if you're in the habit of having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and there's lots of protein, I think that can potentially be a mistake. But
yeah,
yeah, for me, I've kind of gone towards an OMAD type of strategy. So 1 meal a day, I was doing quite well on 2 meals. In the beginning, I was
yeah.
just whatever, whenever, as long as it was animal based. Now
Mm.
I strictly eat mostly high quality red meat, occasionally eggs, seafood once a week, but I usually have one main meal a day.
Yeah,
I've practiced fasting here and there for different reasons. So um, I had like a little skin condition, and actually 5% of people with ulcerative colitis do develop this. It's called it's gangrenosum. I'm trying to think now what the actual pyoderma gangrenosum, which is really quite a
oh,
debilitating skin condition. It's really, really bad. It
oh,
kills
right.
stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really problematic. It can spread, and you kind of got to be very careful about how you treat it, because if you treat it wrong, that
Yeah.
can create more problems as well. So yeah, 5% of patients like myself can incur this, but unfortunately, it happened right under the stoma, and so it's almost in the worst position because it
Oh
doesn't
dear.
air, light, or anything
Mm.
like that. And there's obviously something to do with the way the tissues aren't really supposed to be in the position that they're in, and I think that may be um,
That may be
progressed
making
in
it worse.
some negative way,
Yeah.
manifested. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but I thought, well, at the time I was consuming dairy as well, and where I lost a little bit of weight on carnivore, I started to consume some raw dairy, like milk, but not to consume too much and take myself out of
Mm.
ketosis. So I was mindful of that, but at the same time, I thought, well, you've got the casein proteins, which can be problematic for people with autoimmune problems.
Yes.
And you've got the sugar, the natural sugar, and if you've got like any kind of bacteria, you don't really want to be feeding it a lot of sugar.
No.
So I
No.
thought in my head, well, I'm going to fast and cut the dairy. So cut the dairy immediately. Sort of went into a fast. So I ate a lot of food in one go with no dairy, in mind of having, to go without food as long as I can physically cope without food.
Yeah.
It was a bit of an experiment for me because obviously I don't have a colon. So some other people, they've still got food and reabsorption of water and
Of
electrolytes and uptake,
course. Yeah.
which is going to make things a little easier. I'm pretty much completely empty in 9 hours, no matter what I
Yeah.
eat, in and out 100%. And so, if anything, I went into autophagy quite quickly. I checked my ketones like a day and a half later, and they were really,
Right.
really high. My glucose was very, very low. And so, that's good stuff. That's what I wanted, just to try and promote the healing and not to
Yeah.
continue.
That's what I really was getting at, really, with the
Yeah,
healing,
yeah,
because
yeah,
colitis is ulcers on the colon. I mean, basically, that's really what it means, isn't it? And to have
yeah,
had that and then have it taken away, now, if you can get the rest of your body feeling 100%, which I found with carnivore, I'm so impressed at the changes it's made to me. And I've been doing it 60 days. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
you must have seen some other areas in your body where it's helped. Sort of, you're quite young. I mean, what age are you? I don't know.
I'm 36. Yeah.
36. So you're very young. And basically, we all get aches and pains like I do. I mean, joints and knuckles and things like that. My fingers, I've noticed improvements. So, did you find anything like that in other parts of your body where the carnivore helped you?
I mean, I definitely don't experience sort of any aches or pains or anything like that. I think if I was to get sick, and I have had a couple of colds, they're really mild. They go quite
Yeah,
quickly. I seem to catch them late and then get rid of them before other people that I've sort of caught the things from.
yeah,
But definitely, I mean, I've noticed sort of benefits in oral hygiene and dentition. I mean, I don't really get a lot of plaque. My teeth, I don't really have to use. I don't use toothpaste. I don't feel like I have to brush my teeth all the time. Um,
yeah.
just more energy, and acid reflux was something that I dealt with daily. Really, it wasn't anything really chronic. I never was necessarily medicated, but I took a lot of that over the counter stuff. Gaviscon in pills, and
Oh,
the
yeah,
almost like
yeah.
what you'd feed babies, that little that syrupy type. I used to I was
Yeah.
that way. But that went overnight. I haven't had any sort of acid reflux symptoms for the
That
600
it,
days.
what I find though is strange that I might have had some issue and then I suddenly don't realize it's gone until someone talks about it on another podcast or on YouTube, and I think, oh my God, I used to have
Yeah,
that. It's like my tongue is completely pink, nothing, no trace of anything on my tongue. I just feel that I'm at my
mm, mm.
optimum performance, in generally over my body with my joints. And I had a period 8 months ago where I was struggling to get out of bed. There was all kinds of, I had a broken ankle and I was feeling rubbish. But now, I mean, I go sprint training in the mornings. I do just for 10 minutes,
Yeah, yeah.
and anyone can do that. And I just feel that I've got a responsibility to let people understand and put the message out there to help, that I'm just a normal girl, normal gal, I call myself.
Mm.
Um, but I just want people to be inspired by it and at least try. I mean, I cannot honestly say that I would ever see myself eating vegetables or fruit again after
Yeah.
what I've experienced.
It's
And
hard to justify.
when I heard you and Ken Berry talking about, do you want to talk about your, I mean, we're going to have to go into some detail here, but I think this is such an important thing for people to realize.
Mm.
And I think Lee knows what I'm going to talk about with the fiber, because the colitis, ulcerative colitis and Crohn's website actually advises taking fruits, vegetables, and fibrous vegetables, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
To
terrible.
help.
It should be criminal, really. You know, a lot of what's going on, it is really criminal, but they're obviously funded, big ag, big sugar, and all this kind of stuff. If you look at where all this information is coming from, there's always money involved, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, the truth is, you know, fiber is the carbohydrate portion of the plant that is indigestible. It's really that simple. And I understand that there's soluble. They say that, you know, this stuff breaks down and dissolves. And apparently a lot of this stuff on the FODMAPs is very high in soluble and not so high in the cellulose, the stuff that's really, really problematic. But I've eaten chunks of mango and, you know, if you don't chew that stuff up, it doesn't digest any further. So it wouldn't matter if an expert told me, no, mangoes, they're fine, they're not a problem. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can tell you for a fact that they are a problem. You know, I've had this ileostomy surgery. So I've had a bag where my colon would begin. So I get to see the way, you know, the form in which the food is in as it enters the colon, because I have to empty the bag and change the bag. And I've seen nothing but plant material in there intact, you know, mushrooms, onions, things like bananas aren't so bad just because they're softer and pliable. I would liken it a little bit to potato starch. Again, it will stodge you up more, but it's not quite so aggressive. It's not as egregious as cellulose and all that kind of stuff. But you know, nuts and seeds, a lot on this FODMAP diet, you've got mangoes and nuts and seeds and certain fruits and vegetables. And I totally disagree with that. That's just nonsense. If you have IBD, which is obviously one of the more chronic gut issues that you can have, there's no way you want to be pouring that into your system and multiple times a day. You got a lot of people advocating for little and often. And so people are snacking on nuts and they're having their whole grains in the morning because they're supposed to be better than the refined grains. Funny thing is that if I had to say, you know, eat a carbohydrate, I would point towards refined pasta, refined rice, refined bread, because it doesn't have as many anti-nutrients. It doesn't have the fiber. There's going to be some other issues with elevating blood glucose, but it's not going to cause those other issues that for those sensitive individuals with gut problems, they should be avoiding. So all plants in whole form, intact. If you don't chew that stuff properly, that's an issue. If you think about fruits, we eat them as they come. So we're not cooking them and softening them up. If we're quite sort of enthusiastic about what we're eating, strawberries and cream, for example, you start chowing that down and swallowing big chunks. If you've got any ulcers in your digestive tract, you've got Crohn's disease, you know, it's above the colon, that's going to be a nightmare for you.
And
I've
ulcerative colitis, things like that, really, that
100%.
anybody could have, where little bits of brown rice could get trapped. You know, I mean, anyone that's eaten brown rice will know it's
One of the worst things.
absolutely
I remember
awful,
learning
isn't it?
years ago it was a superfood, and I believed that. I believed that brown
Yeah.
rice was a superfood because it was, you know, low glycemic and it had all this fiber, it had all these different nutrients going on and resistant starch in this wheat and grain and blah, 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 blah. Really, it's one of the worst foods you can consume. Not only is it going to elevate blood glucose, it's going to inflame you with the whole grain being the inner part and outer part of the shell present, the indigestible fiber. You've got lectins, phytoestrogens, endocrine disruptors, all this stuff going on just in one food that really doesn't offer you much nourishment whatsoever. It really doesn't. You've got the gluten and the wheat, which we can't break down as humans. We struggle to break those plant proteins down. So all of these things are going to inflame the gut because by the time it goes through the stomach acid, if it's not dealt with properly and you have gut issues, Crohn's, colitis, IBS, diverticulitis, you're going to have problems. There's just no way, no doubt about it, you know, but meat.
And to sorry, Lee, but to be honest, we're not experts. You're using your experience on eliminating these mushed up vegetables from your system, and you can see the process that's gone through your body and basically the matting and the congestion it's caused. I mean, you had an example of was it brown rice and something else, and it was like a paste that
Yeah,
was
brown
blocking
rice,
your whole
broccoli.
system.
Yeah, that was really bad. You know, that
And
blocked me up.
broccoli, we all
Yeah,
believe broccoli's good, you know, and it's just something that I find so passionately about the carnivore and the communities I've met is that we're just normal people experiencing what other people are experiencing and just doing the best we can for ourselves. But we've got to stop just taking things like eating fruit and veg for granted. I mean, when I go out and I see friends of people around me or people that I see, and I can see them struggling with walking sticks and getting bigger. I mean, you just think if those people just knew that they could help themselves by trying this carnivore, even if they did it for 30 days, just to prove to themselves. And we're not talking as professionals, we're talking as just normal English people that care about other people. And I know damn well that you, Lee, would help anybody that needed help because of what I've heard you talking to all these doctors about. You've amazingly used your platform with doctors like Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chavey, Dr. Sean Baker. All of these people will give everybody the facts. They're the professionals. We're just voicing what we've experienced, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think when I heard you talking to Dr. Ken Berry, it was so inspirational and so knowledgeable, because who else is going to have your knowledge, Lee, to
Yeah,
actually
maybe that's the main
practically
thing, you know?
do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also they would have also unwillingly had to have done the experiments, you know, perhaps not to actually go about consciously doing an experiment, but they would have had to have come across the carnivore diet and then gone, oh, wait a minute, there's a difference between this way of eating and that way of eating. And so
Yeah.
I did think that there was something rare about me. I mean, there's more people out there in a similar situation to me than I ever thought. Honestly, I get emails and comments, so it's amazing. But yeah, you know, I'm one of these unfortunate human beings that have lost their entire colon. I've got a bag now, and so I'm forced to see how foods do and don't break down. And as it turns out, you know, red meat, despite all the common rumors and the fallacies and these beliefs, red meat doesn't get stuck or caught. It's not difficult to digest. It doesn't even create meat sweats. You know, I eat nothing but red meat pretty much, almost nearly a kilo every day almost. And this stuff is liquidized 100% by the time it comes out of your stomach. The moment it hits your
Yeah.
small intestine, the food is completely liberated, completely broken down, which is what we need to do if we're going to absorb all the nutrients. There's nothing fibrous or anything getting in the way of that nutrient absorption in the small intestine. And by the time it hits your colon, you know, sure, it's not going to be liquidy for other people because then the water's reabsorbed, it's stodged back up, and they may have actually very little bowel movements going on if they're consuming mostly red meat and no other plant matter, because we're using this stuff more. We break it down further, and we haven't got all this robust indigestible matter that we have to push out. And so when you eat fiber, you just simply add fiber to your stool. And so of course you're going to have sometimes for some people more bowel movements, but you're also going to exacerbate constipation. You know, you're going to exacerbate all these other symptoms with gut health and stuff like that.
And gas. I mean, you said
Yeah,
at some incidences with the vegetables fermenting in your stomach, they were causing worse gas.
much
And
worse. Yeah.
and to be honestly, I mean, I had a car crash a few years ago and I had to have surgery in
Mm.
that area, similar
Right.
to the area you're talking about. And I've had to be a little bit cautious with what I eat. I thought I was doing fine on the Mediterranean diet, and I'd throw in a bit of porridge in the morning or muesli, and I'd put some berries in and basically do what I thought was healthy.
Of course.
I eat steak, eggs, bacon, and I love it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, my boys cut their teeth on spare ribs. So I've always trusted meat, always.
Mm.
But there's so many people that will shut you down. But I'm not here to reach those people that want to shut us down. I'm here because I want to reach people that really want to try.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be suckered in by these food companies and medical professionals that really will not do anything. They look at the textbook, and there's so much evidence now. Anybody worldwide can pick up the evidence. And if anyone wants to know more, just start searching carnivore. It's
Yeah.
amazing the help and the intelligence and the education that's out there with the theoretical papers that have been written that we need to take responsible for and take ownership for. I lost my young sister at a very young age of cancer, and I started to actually open up to alternatives when I was very young because I felt I have to take responsibility. And I think we all need to do that. We all need to stop following and we need to take responsibility to just uncover what's really out there. And now with this internet, which I mean, I might have found tricky to start with. And we've got to do it. We owe it to ourselves and our families to actually do it. If they don't listen, all well and good, but keep chipping away and people will.
And the
A friend
children
of
as well,
mine,
they're born into the
yeah,
most toxic world yet. You know, it's never been as bad as it is now
yes,
with all the propaganda and all this
no,
information we're hearing about. You can still
exactly,
go on Google, and obviously that's just accessing the internet. And on the internet, there's a load of crap. Let's face it. You know, it's not all. You
yeah,
can't just go on Google and get your straight answer. That's not the way it works.
no,
So when we're saying to do the research here and take responsibility for your own health, that's actually not an easy thing to do. I would
no,
definitely recommend, as you said, you know, go down the carnivore route, because then a lot of the time the videos, they link the studies, they link the stuff, the
yes,
truth in the video descriptions. Perhaps, you know, it's very difficult to get on Google and really find this out for yourself, because
yeah,
you're going to have to sift through all of this nonsense that's trying to get in your way. That you only have to type in about cholesterol and it still says, you know, the top searches will still say, well, you should only eat
yeah,
1 or 2 eggs a day, but depending on whether you're eating all this other cholesterol from other foods, so maybe you shouldn't have any, you know, and all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
So it's not,
I
it's
was
not,
always told, I mean, I was always told, oh, you can't have more than 2 eggs, you'll be bound up and you won't be able to go to the toilet. What a load of rubbish. I know people are eating 5, 6, 7 eggs a day, I mean, even more than that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's amazing when you can get up in the morning and whisk up an amazing omelette, you know, and
mm,
if you want, put double cream in it if you want to have dairy, you know. So
yeah,
if you
yeah,
haven't got an autoimmune problem, if you haven't got diverticulitis, if you're not obese, if you want to lose weight, if you've got fatty liver, if you've got mental health problems, or you just want to do it for general well-being, there's so much advice. And what I'd suggest you do, if you look at a video like this one, just look out for the comments underneath and you will find thousands of people talking about how everything's helped them.
mm,
And there's ladies that come on with me. I'm 64, feel amazing. I do my sprint running in the morning, my exercise. I do everything I can to keep myself fit. But only because now I feel like I've got my optimum health back through doing carnivore. Couldn't have
mm.
done that before Christmas.
No,
I
no.
just feel incredible. And when women come on and they say, I'm 74 and I'm 80 and you've given me inspiration, to me, that's just the most wonderful thing. And I get messages from New Zealand, from Canada. The lady commented on Canada and I've emailed her back. And I'm happy to receive questions. And I'm sure you are, Lee, from anybody that wants a little bit more detail. But when Lee can put a bit of steak in his mouth without chewing it, swallow it into his stomach, and then look at his colostomy bag,
Yeah.
and it's perfect poo. I mean, there's loads of us out there not getting perfect poo, but that meat digests, absorbs into the system vitamins C, D, B's, all the vitamins are coming into your body. And not only that, girls out there and guys, because this is really relevant to the guys, your hormones then get balanced. So the fat around the sides we all inherit when we get to a certain age, that sucks in. That fat sucks in and the hormones go into your body. Quite incredible. I mean, I've just done my measurement this morning. I only do it once a week. And in 60 days, Lee, and I know you're not interested in this, but I'm going to tell you because I know there's gals listening and they'll want to hear. My waist, I've got it written down here, was 39 inches and now it's 33.
There you go.
Hallelujah. I feel amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm wearing trousers and clothes I haven't worn for years. I've never been able to do that before, and I've always stayed relatively fit. So there's something miraculous working here. It's like the golden chalice of something we've never known has now been found.
No, no, you know, it's just food. That's the power of proper food and no
proper
antagonists,
food.
nothing getting in the way. When you're
Yeah,
eating just food that's nutrient dense and you're not having all the stuff that blocks nutrients or inflames you, your body can now
yes,
just get on and do what it's always wanted to do. And so even when you're in your older age, when the body's given the chance, it's going to go to
yeah,
town healing and making you feel better, mending and everything.
yeah. I mean, cutting out, I mean, all of the doctors that we follow say cut out plant oils, cut these awful oils out. The only things, I think you'll agree, Lee, is to have olive oil or butter.
I mean, I wouldn't even recommend olive oil. And so
No?
there's a couple of, yeah, not for, I mean, about, I think it's about 98% of olive oils are cut with other oils. You know,
Oh, I
you have to
suppose
really
so. Yeah.
do some meaningful research to find what is actually 100% olive oil. And again, if you take any oil in a bottle, the moment you moment it hits the pan, those molecules that are quite unstable, they oxidize very easily, and so they're inflammatory in themselves. That so
Yeah.
I personally
Wow.
stay away from any oil in the bottle. That's my opinion. I mean, if you're going to consume oils, yeah, olive oil would be better because it's from the pulp and not the seed. Just like for the
Yeah.
same reason as coconut oil's better because it's higher in saturated
Coconut's
fat.
better. Yeah.
Sure, you know, again from the pulp and not the seed, and so it's not so toxic, but they're very unstable molecules and they can oxidize the moment they hit the pan. So in
Wow.
my
Thank
opinion,
you for
I
that.
choose beef dripping or tallow to cook in.
Yeah.
Butter's great, you know, if you can tolerate dairy. Otherwise, ghee would be even better because it's clarified and you've got basically little to no lactose, like very just
Yeah.
trace, very genuinely trace elements of lactose. So even for highly sensitive people, ghee that they can often get away with. But I would personally always safely advocate for animal fats and cooking in
Yes.
animal fats, and that
Yeah.
mostly comes from ruminant animals.
Well, I and the ruminant animals, great you brought that up actually. If anyone's watching and they're not sure what ruminant is, you must follow Michaela Peterson, who's Jordan Peterson's daughter. It's an unusual spelling, her name, isn't it? But what I'll try and do is add it to the video when I
Yeah,
put it up. Was
Michaela,
she Michaela, yeah,
yeah,
HIL.
yeah.
Yeah. So Michaela Peterson, and she's the first person I ever heard anything. I'd never even heard about ruminant meat, and I've been in the food industry a lot of years. So it's an animal that has more than one stomach. Is the best way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah,
And what happens is the beef, the lamb, the sheep, the goats, anything of that group who have more than one stomach, they eat the vegetables in the ground or whatever you give them to stop anything harmful getting into their flesh. They then, the items move to a second stomach where all of the food is fermented, making it pure. So when you eat the flesh of these animals, the muscle, the meat, the fat, you are getting nothing but pure meat, pure vitamins, pure goodness. And this is what helps all of your hormones, all of your body, your bones, your structure, your muscles. I've even noticed in my husband how much more his muscle development has come on.
mm.
You're having surgery, you can't afford to lose weight, Lee, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
I'd
would
like
be
to try.
best that you have much more going into your muscles
Yeah,
than ever would with vegetables.
yeah. Just to prime me really, because I'm going to be laid out for a little bit, you know, probably a week or so
Yeah,
with very little movement, very little food, and so yeah, I want to go in and be primed enough to forego that process.
yeah. If I can find it, I did hear something the other day of a chap that's developed a animal protein. He's a doctor and he's developed an animal protein shake which has all the fats and all the essentials. I don't know if you've come across that, but that might be something that might be able to help you.
Um, to be honest with you, I think, I mean, I don't know if you looked at dry fasting. If you dry fast, you lose very little muscle tissue. You also create your own water, so it's
Oh,
very healthy. Yeah, that, you know, you're basically resulting to your own resources, if you like. That's where autophagy, mitophagy, all these things very healing, but you hold on to more muscle tissue with the dry fast.
oh,
But I
really?
think,
Wow.
yeah. I think though, you know, I'm not going to be eating any hospital foods or anything like that off the menu. My
Yeah.
partner's going to bring in things, and I've questioned perhaps raw milk again to reintroduce raw milk because that's going to help with the growth factor to nurture me
Yes.
back to a healthy weight. I think that's probably not a bad idea, but I'm going to be consuming a lot of eggs for rapid healing and stuff like that, and liver just because it's so nutrient dense. I think again, I don't eat a lot of organ meats, but in that initial stage, my body's going to be loving that,
Yes.
all of those nutrients. Yeah.
Fantastic. That'll help with recovery. What about cow or goat, sheep or goat's milk? You
I
tried
haven't
that? I
actually had
haven't.
the
I'm
milk.
due
I've had
to.
some cheese. I've had some raw goat's cheese.
Halloumi and halloumi, maybe.
I've not had
Have you had
halloumi.
halloumi's made from sheep, which is
Okay.
lovely. If you like bacon, when you're back
Right,
on road to recovery, remember halloumi. It's Cypriot. They sell it in all the
right.
supermarkets.
Yeah.
But there's MCT oil, isn't there, in the sheep and the goats
Yes, that's
animal
true. You've got
products.
high levels
So
of that, less levels of casein as well, so slightly better for people
yes,
with autoimmune
yeah.
problem. I do try and stay away from dairy more now, just because I know that where I've suffered with autoimmune diseases, you know, it's like when you get
Yeah,
one, you get them all. So
of
I've
course you do.
decided
Yeah,
to kind of just steer away from that a little bit, and prioritize mostly on red meat. Again, that's why I always
yeah,
advocate for getting that in first. Don't snack, don't eat anything else like cheese first. Fill up on red meat, and then if you really fancy it,
yes.
you can have a little bit of cheese or something like that as a condiment, as a
Yeah.
dessert.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a little treat, and because you can. I mean, sometimes I'll have my coffee and I put clotted cream in it or double cream because I'm okay with dairy. But it
Yeah,
is such a feel good factor. But when I break my fast, I do tend to try and eat just red meat or eggs because of the goodness that's in them, and I can feel it absorbing into my body. It's quite amazing, isn't it? How
yeah.
you feel so good after you've eaten like that.
How long have you fasted for? What have you got up to? Do you try and push it, or do you just do
Uh,
16,
Well,
18?
I do what I want really. And sometimes I think I'll fast. If I'm hungry, I'll eat. But today, actually, I did go for a biggish one. So 11 o'clock, I'd have done 24 hours.
Hmm.
So done a few hours today.
Yeah, that's good. That's a
So
healthy. Yeah,
yeah, but I do that solely because I still haven't got all my results back from the doctor because I had some little tests done a little while ago. And I think if there's anything nasty hanging around in my body, I'm healing it at the top of
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And that's why I do it. Um, but not religiously. I mean, I went out the other night and we had met some friends and I had a brandy
yeah,
and I thought, because I can.
yeah. That's fine.
But, and when I did my ketone strips in the morning, I dipped and I was still in ketosis,
Mm,
which
mm.
I think you can manage it, can't you? And I feel so much better
Yeah.
managing now because I feel in control for the first time in my life.
Your body's going to get rid of those toxins. I'm not saying, we should be drinking alcohol or anything like that, but if you do want to, it's not the end of the world, and your body's going to be
No,
far better equipped to get that out of the system quicker. And
oh,
again,
much
straight back
better.
to ketosis, where you haven't got lots of glycogen stores in your liver, you haven't got these stores, and then adding to
Mm.
that, you've already depleted those stores. So anything you additionally put in the next day is basically out of your system. So it's not as much of a
Yeah.
problem for that reason.
No, that's right. And I did have a big pint of soda water with it. So, but sometimes being in a social environment for me is a big thing because we've run pubs, Steve and I, we've run clubs and we've got a big circle of friends. So
Yeah.
I'll never say I'm not going to cut out alcohol. I've done it for 60 days. So I'm very proud of that. And I
Mm.
can, but I'm very fortunate as well because I'm not addicted to it in
Yeah,
any
yeah,
way. And I know that. Well, I think that's the difference. Everybody's got to look at their own situation and how they balance what they put in their body.
yeah, yeah.
And when you get to my age, you should know what you can and can't, which is really what it's about, isn't it?
Mhm.
So, it's been lovely to talk in, Lee. Is there anything you want to ask me along the way that we might not have covered that
Um,
I might be able to help with?
I don't know. I suppose if you noticed a difference in your cognition, did you maybe stumble across not feeling anxious where previously maybe you were anxious? A lot of people report
Um,
that. They say, I didn't know I had anxiety, but now I don't.
I did have that a lot of years ago, and I dealt with it in my own way. So I've got the tools in my toolbox to help me if anything gets on top of me.
Mm,
Um, in a work environment, I had a really awful situation, but I dealt with it as I had to because it was really changing me as a person. But I mean, one thing that I have noticed is I've been told I have got blepharitis in my eyes and that I'll never get away with it, never cure it, sorry, and I'll have it the rest of my life. And it's basically, if I can relate it to having sand on your fingers and rubbing it in your eyelashes and in your eyelids, it's awful, and your eyelashes and lids are red and sore. That's completely gone.
it's basically like arthritis in the eyes. Am I correct in saying that?
Sorry.
Am I correct in saying it's a lot like arthritis in your eyes? Is that basically what that is?
Well, if it's a ritis, it's a blepharitis. I'd never thought of it like that. I
Like
don't know.
crystals and things like that, maybe from oxalate. I don't know. I think I was speaking to someone the other day who had this similar condition. He said it was very painful. He was really struggling with it, but that went again for him as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my eyes, I've had terrible trouble and I couldn't drive at night. The glare and everything was bad. Well, now I'm sure my vision's improved and my eyes have cleared up. So
Bit of pain, right? Retinol.
whatever,
Oh, you've gone there.
Oh, I lost you there, Lee. Yeah, I've lost you for a moment. I
Back
think
then.
the signals are playing up a little bit. But
Yeah, no worries.
well, it's just been amazing to talk to you, Lee, and I really wish you all the best with everything and carry on eating the carnivore way,
Okay,
and
yeah,
that will give you the strength. And generally, if we feel better, then anything can be thrown at us and we can fight it off, I feel, don't you?
yeah, for sure, definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, well, keep in touch and good luck. And I'll put some notes underneath with a do. Would you like me? What would you like me to put? Your
It's
Kent
up to you.
Carnivore?
Yeah, you can drop the channel under you in the description, or maybe even a link to a video, perhaps if people are interested. I've
Yeah.
got
Okay.
videos on gut health. It depends. It's totally up to you. Whatever you feel your audience wants.
Well,